So, I've been thinking recently about everything that the channel's gone through in the year 2024. While thinking about that, I started going through my old files, all of the images that have been in the videos, all of the little assets and music and all that great, wonderful stuff, and thought, wouldn't it be interesting to go back through some of my favorite designs that we did? So if this is your first time on the channel, these will all be brand new to you, and you can find more detail about them in some of the other videos. But if you've been here and you've been watching all of the posts and everything going on with that, then I'm hoping that I can recontextualize and give some behind the scenes type of looks to some of those designs. Without much further ado, why don't we go ahead and hop right into the video so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about. Hello, I'm the Thesterninator, but my friends call me the last survivor of the War of 2025. Welcome to the channel. While you're here, don't forget to head down to the bottom, like, comment, subscribe, do all that stuff that makes me and YouTube very happy, and let's hop into it. At the point of this video, this being the cryptid video, I had been in a collaboration before, and actually a couple, but this was the first one that I myself organized, and I have to thank Faye for all of the work that they did in helping make this an easy opportunity and something that I think we both had a ton of fun doing. I remember the conversations as creators on what we wanted to do, how we wanted to play out this collaboration between two different videos, one dropped on each channel, and it was a ton of fun. It really informed me more on how this whole dynamic works. Like I said, I'd been in collabs before, but I was more so invited to those, brought in with other creators, whereas this one was kind of organized by me. I do have to say, a big part of this collaboration was brought in by the Discord community. At the time, I was doing a lot of the Porico ARG stuff, and I remember specifically some conversation began to arise, that me and Faye had both dropped ARG-based videos at about the same time, if not the exact same day. People began to kind of start to theorize that maybe we were working together on this project, and I waited for that conversation to die down, people to kind of acknowledge, okay, they're probably not. What would it be like if they were? But it looks like that's not the case. And it was at that point that I decided I wanted to troll the community a little bit and actually ask Faye if they wanted to collab. And I was overjoyed to hear that they were excited to, happy to, and so we did. And I think that it was a ton of fun. It was really a video that came about by this trolling mentality that turned out to be something really, really fun. Maybe that's why this Pokemon, Fragagan, has so much of a troll aesthetic to him, because I maybe had that in the back of my mind. I haven't heard a ton of people talk about this design, but truthfully, it is one of my absolute favorites. And I can't thank Faye enough for the opportunity of getting to create this guy. I feel like he captures so much of the energy that I was looking for in both a cryptid-based Pokemon, as well as something that had a slightly spooky vibe. It allowed me to experiment a lot, and I felt the pressure of collaborating with other people, much like I had before. It's one of those fun and interesting and frustrating, calming things when you work with others, in that you want to show off and you want to create something that not only you can be proud of, but that they can be proud of as well. And this design, I have to say, I have to be honest, I am super, super proud of. Like I said, I haven't heard a ton of people talk about this design, but it is one of my absolute favorites, if not my absolute favorite. Whenever I redo my backgrounds where I have a lot of different designs shown, I always make sure to include this guy because he has a special place in my heart. Based off of the Loveland Frogman, I did a lot of research into that design. Research ends up being a huge part of the construction of these characters, and I very much fell in love with that cryptid, one that I didn't know a ton about, but I thought the idea behind it really, I think, would work as a Pokemon, and I am so glad that I picked it. So this is Fragagan. Fragagan's name comes from that Cthulhu-esque type of verbiage and language used when describing and naming those characters, and I wanted it to have a little bit of that Lovecraftian vibe, especially since it's a swamp dweller, and the Innsmouth people kind of fit the aesthetic of this look. I thought about its throat pouch and its arms kind of glowing with this energy that I think is one of my favorite parts of the design. We talked a little bit about the Porico ARG that I was running and continue to run from time to time, and I have to say it was a really fun experiment in getting to play with what would happen if you kind of corrupted these Pokemon forms. like I said, I get a lot of inspiration from other creators and where they go with this. One of the first videos that I ever actually made for this channel was for Lava Tyrant's Mutant Menagerie. And I don't think it's too far of a stretch to say a lot of this channel exists because of Lava Tyrant's whole contest and things. I started posting and I said, well, if I have to post something, maybe I'll make a video for it, because it seemed like other people were doing the same thing. And I posted a Dugtrio that had been mutated to be this multifaceted kind of Rat King inspired twist and twirling of what could potentially be under Dugtrio, which was, in my vision, more Dugtrio. So I took that, I made a video, and it went really well, and people liked it. And it taught me that there is some audience for this in the way that I was doing things. So I continued. And that's why I say a lot of my videos are inspired by that circumstance, by that opportunity that I had to work on that project. I speak to LT a lot, and whenever I do, I always have to remind him, hey, just a heads up, a lot of my channel is because of you, man, because I don't know, I probably wouldn't have this YouTube channel or the format that it's in if it wasn't for the inspiration drawn from that prompt. It was a ton of fun, and LT's a great YouTuber who makes fantastic videos, really has a certain eye for adding aesthetic to their videos and their whole storytelling element system. So I really wanted to find something that fit that similar niche but had so many different aspects to it that I could call it my own, and so we came up with Poriko. And it was a ton of fun. It continues to be a ton of fun. This corrupted Pokemon shape really took on a life of its own, and while that initial corrupted, mutated Dugtrio was an inspiration for a lot of what came, I do really feel like the Poriko experiments and the storyline that goes with them became this whole larger idea that is now informing the direction that I'm taking my fan game. I never intended that to be the case. It was just multiple ideas that collided together. I had these ideas for a region back when I was just posting on Instagram of, okay, well, what if Pokemon somehow got a change in appearance that added or subtracted or something, and it was this whole nebulous type of idea that upon creating the channel and creating Poriko and having these corrupted Pokemon and doing this, I kind of went back and realized, oh, this is exactly the answer that I was looking for. This new thing that I'm doing really feeds into and off of this older thing that I was doing. So I combined the two together, and I'm really excited. I'm hopefully going to have the fan game come out in 2025. I've given myself a year to work on it, and all of that couldn't have happened without the support of this community, as well as creators like Lava Tyrant, who allow us in the community something to do, some new types of ideas to throw around and experiment and expand on them further. I really have to say, a lot of this channel couldn't have existed without them, and a lot of the ideas that I have are inspired by the success that I had with that post. I believe that I ended up winning or placing high in that Mutant Menagerie, and actually getting the opportunity to work alongside Lava Tyrant on some of the editing that went into the final video for that. So it ended up being a ton of fun. It was really cool to get to work with a YouTuber, and I think it fed and started in a lot of ways my appreciation of collaboration. Each of these Pokemon that we go through today really feeds into where the channel is, how it's gotten there, and the different aspects that I've been able to grab from those experiences. And I think that that's really cool. I post normally 3 times a week. Right now, being that it's the holidays, I'm kind of taking it a little bit easier. But yeah, I love doing these and creating these Pokemon, getting to experiment with the thought process that goes into making these different designs. And so kind of looking back and saying, oh yeah, 20 videos ago, way back when, and realizing, oh, that was like 2 months ago, is really kind of funny. Looking back at these and saying, oh, older designs from 20 videos back were actually not that long after all. So this was fun. And Glowlurk, this design it holds such a special place for me, because I feel like this was the moment that I really started to understand this project that I had started myself. I feel like I started and went in and said, I know kind of where I want to be with this, but making the story for this Pokemon informed me on what this story was. So this is Glowlurk. I ended up changing and playing with the colors a lot between what you saw in the pre-rendered area and then in the final render here. And I think moving with that change of color also informed where I was going. I went with that green because it felt like it fit, and from that change, decided on this atomic energy inspired Pokemon with this super sad backstory. Call it fatigue, call it boredom, call it whatever you will. I think that it was just maybe me running out of ideas, but at a certain point I decided, what if for our Wednesday videos, I did these polls, and I ran these polls first on the Discord as kind of a trial run. Then I moved them over to the Patreon as free polls, which I still do today, where I would drop those polls on Monday, allow them to run until Tuesday, and then put out the video on Wednesday. It didn't give me a ton of time and really cut out the opportunity for me to do this intense, vast research into objects and concepts that I wasn't super familiar with. But this new challenge, I think, allowed me to get new ideas that I otherwise wouldn't have gotten through. One of my favorites happens to be when we did Has Been Hotel, which won a poll, as Pokemon. And Angel Dust went through so many iterations. I don't recall if I said it in the initial video, but this is probably iteration 4 or 5 of this design. I actually wanted to do this as its video on its own, and gave up because of Angel Dust. I ran into such a wall on what I was gonna do that I just gave up. I stopped. And ultimately it didn't happen until we started doing the poll that I realized I kind of have to. I have to push through and make this into a Pokemon. I kind of buried myself on that. I put up this poll, said whatever wins is what I'm gonna draw. Has Been Hotel won, and I thought, oh no, my old adversary Angel Dust as a Pokemon is going to take me out again. But man, I am so glad that those polls took off the way that they did, and that they continue to be free so that anyone who watches the videos can take part in them, because this is one of my favorite designs. That's the whole point of this video. So if you see a Pokemon in here, it is because it is one of my favorites, as you already know. I'm kind of just saying this for myself, but yeah, it ended up being one of my favorite designs, favorite ideas, and it went a little bit away from what Angel Dust actually looks like, but I think that there was some comfort in that, in the fact that I didn't have to translate one-to-one this Pokemon. It was a lesson I kind of learned with my Elden Ring into Pokemon series, but with this one, I felt like once I freed myself and gave myself the opportunity to say, just make something fun that you, Stern, enjoy, it kind of removed that mental block. And so I prescribe that to anyone who's drawing and faces that mental block, is a couple things. One, if you're stuck, walk away, come back to it the next day with fresh eyes. And two, allow yourself the freedom to experiment outside of the prompt and make a U-turn, come back later once you feel comfortable with what you've decided on. So with that said, this is our Angel Dust Pokemon, a Raktangle. A Raktangle was a fun name. It just kind of rolled off the tongue. I know I get some people who say, man, Stern, the designs are good, but you suck at names. A Raktangle was by far one of my favorites. Arachnid, rectangle for the shape that the legs make, and Tangle for Angel Dust's whole thing. And I dig it, and not much more I can say on that. I just love this design. I think there's a stark difference between copying someone and kind of picking their brain and experimenting on what it is that allows them to come up with the ideas the way that they do. And I wanted to do that with a series of videos that I did. It was an idea that I know had been explored by other creators before, but I really wanted to see my own take on it. I thought of the idea of, what about all these type combinations that don't exist yet in the Pokemon world? And I played with that idea a lot. Like I said, it was an idea that I know others have explored, but I wanted to give myself the confidence and courage to be able to go in knowing I could make something that was my own without feeling like it was just a mimicry of something that someone else had already done. It was a real hassle for me. I felt scared. I felt nervous that people would call me a fraud or would say, hey, this video's already been done by X, Y, and Z, but I think that the biggest difference is my own personal take on it, and it would be your own personal take on it, and their own personal take on it, and the other guy's personal take on it. So I really pushed myself and allowed myself the confidence to be able to do this, and I'm glad that I did, because while I'm showing you this Pokemon here, I had several from this series that ended up being some of my absolute favorites. I did a post on Instagram, Blue Sky, and X showing me and 9 of my favorite designs from the year. We're not going to cover all 9, but several of them were designs from this series. So I think giving myself permission to explore in this way and say, okay, I do want to set myself apart from other creators in a lot of ways, but that shouldn't mean ignoring the aspects that are working. I think that going in with that mentality really, like I said, it challenged me, but it allowed me some more freedom as well. The freedom to know, okay, I'm gonna make something for myself, no holds barred, whatever I want to do on this is what I want to do. And like I said, there were so many that came out of this practice that I loved, and even some of the ones that I didn't necessarily see as my favorite, you guys did. I saw posts on the Discord and in the comments of the other channel and the YouTube and whatever of just people talking about how much that they loved this Pokemon or that Pokemon, and they were ones that I had fully disregarded or ignored, said this kind of fills a space. But I went in with my whole heart, hoping that it was going to work, and you guys found favorites. So while I'm showing my favorites, you may have different ones. I'm so curious to hear what they are. If you're a big fan of the channel and have been watching all year long, let me know. I'd love to hear about it, because maybe you have something that I never even considered might be someone's favorite. It's like they say, everyone has a favorite Pokemon, and there's a favorite Pokemon for everyone except for Barbaracle, because no one likes Barbaracle. Full disclosure, I had to go back and actually look up this guy's name, because Gyrillo was not something that I had locked into my brain. I don't know how I feel about the name. I know that it's a mixture of gyroid and armadillo, but still, it really, I don't know. I have to go back and look at these sometimes, and that's kind of the hassle with looking back at some of your old concepts, designs, and names, is realizing, man, I probably could have done something different if I'd have done this today. In that same note, I ended up looking at different concepts for past Paradox and future Paradox Pokemon. Up until this point, I hadn't done a ton of variants, and I think a part of that was because I was afraid that I wouldn't understand the idea or wouldn't understand what they go for. Scarlet and Violet, I'll be honest, was not a game that I fully ever, I think, really finished, because it just got a little bit more convoluted for me than what I'm used to in other Pokemon games. I came in playing Pokemon Gold and Pokemon Red immediately after that, so my brain is stuck in a certain era of Pokemon. So it was a little bit different for me, and I know when I designed this Pokemon, the comments came at me for this and a couple others saying, hey, past Paradox Pokemon really fit this certain type of setup for stats and size and color, and yeah, I get that. But ultimately, I wanted to make something that I enjoyed, and I kind of let this one run away without me. I looked at the idea of turning past Paradox Pokemon into future Paradox, and future Paradox into past Paradox. And I took on the idea of Hydreigon, and that being Iron Jugulus, and decided, okay, well, what if it was a past Paradox Pokemon instead? Played with it a little bit, moved that silhouette around to give it something that was wholly unique, and again, went in knowing some people may not enjoy this, but I do. And I love it. It ended up being one of my favorites, which is why it's in this video. And I look at it all the time, and I'm just so proud of myself for the direction that I was able to take this. And I think as an artist, you need to be able to do that for yourself, is look at your art and just say, I am super proud of this. It's a skill that I am no master at, and something that I still have to learn. I'm one of those people who didn't want to take on the term artist for a long time, so I felt like I wasn't worthy of it. So this was kind of my therapy on that, was let me just play with something, let me just make it the way that I want to, and while that ends up being kind of a running theme for some of my favorite Pokemon, I hope that it's something that you, if you're an artist, can take to heart as well. Make something for you. I've found that when I do and make something for me, I enjoy it so much more. Even looking back at this now, I remember going back, finding that file, pulling it up and saying, yeah, I love this design. And it may sound full of myself to say that I love one of my own designs. I do. I love this design. I played with so much freedom that I was able to have with this, and I think that it pays off in a lot of ways. I know that I've had a lot of people, I actually posted this one to Reddit, mention that this was a really fun design, that they enjoyed it, and that just, it fills my heart with so much joy to hear that someone else sees what I see in a design. And even when they don't, I love the conversation. I love the discourse that revolves around these type of elements. So this is Tangleneck. It was our past Paradox version of Iron Jugulus, as well as our past Paradox version of Hydreigon, and I dig it so much. There's so much going on here, and it's such this... I really struggle with asymmetrical designs, so the idea of this thing being tangled up and woven within itself was really fun to bring me out of my comfort zone, and I feel like it paid off. Some Pokemon, I have to admit, I just designed to be cool, especially with the Paradox Pokemon. As we kind of hop back into those, I designed this one just to kind of be cool. I started with Mentamite, which was a play or an ancient form of Magnemite. Being that it's referenced that Magnemite is a man-made Pokemon, I thought, what if it was inspired by a non-man-made Pokemon? By a naturally occurring Pokemon, I guess would be the term. So I created Mentamite as this little floating magnetic rock, but rather than being magnetic, it actually had its own thought process. It was psychic, which kind of was a play on the idea of a computer is a rock that we taught to think, and I went with that. I then got the opportunity to evolve it, which was a ton of fun. Going off the rails, figuring out, okay, how can I look at this in a different way? I could just make a bigger rock, I could just make it more psychic-y, but I thought, what if I just really, throw arrows to the wind and went with something absolutely insane? I think at the same time, I happened to be looking across Instagram and saw someone had 3D printed an Aerodactyl skull. And I thought, that is so cool. I would love to have that like in my office, in my studio space, and it would be huge. It would take up a ton of room. I would really have no room left on my desk if I brought it in, but I thought it was so cool and I wanted to draw it. And while I was drawing it, I had this on my mind and decided to scrap what I was drawing, bring it all together into one piece, and I am so glad that I did. If you follow us over on the Discord, which is linked down in the description below, then you'll be able to get news and updates on things going on with these older designs as well, especially now. Just today, while I'm recording this, the group over at Cobblemon Dystoria, who we're connected to through that Discord, has been working on adding some of my designs into this Cobblemon branch, and this was one of the ones that they started with. They actually did a couple before this, I think 1 or 2 before this, and then this one, and oh my gosh, it is insane. Seeing this stuff rendered out in 3D, like I've seen a couple different artists do just kind of for fun, it is incredible. 3D is something that is completely foreign to me. I don't understand how it works in the art world, so seeing something that I made, something that I found joy in, brought into that realm and utilized in a way where other people will get to experience it through that Minecraft server is crazy. It's one of those things that really showed me just kind of how far the channel has come in this short period of time. A reminder that I only really started posting regularly about 6.5 months ago, and within that time period, so much. Like my life has changed so much, and I get to see it day by day as I get to interact with creators who I kind of grew up watching, who I'd been big fans of for a year or two or even longer, getting to interact with them, getting to see my stuff incorporated into different aspects like Cobblemon, which I never would have imagined, is just the coolest thing. And so this is Mentrattle. Mentrattle is one of my favorites, such a crazy design that I don't know what happened. I feel like I went into a fugue state as I designed this thing, and I wish I could call upon that power whenever I wanted, because this, man, if I had a channel mascot, this would definitely be in the running, because it's so crazy, but I feel it works. Last but not least is a design from one of our recent videos, actually. We did a Hell of a Boss video, and it was in reference to the episode that came out actually before the season finale. It was the one where we got to meet all of the Lords of Hell, and I knew I had to do something. I knew I had to draw something for it and decided, okay, let's do Hell of a Boss. It also helped that it actually won the poll that week, that free poll that I do over on Patreon, and I got to design a bunch of different characters. The one that I put off till last was Luna, because there's a stigma around those type of anthropomorphic characters, but it didn't matter. I knew I was going to have to do it, and I went in kind of feeling, I've got to draw these characters from this poll, whatever, and this is my favorite of the recent designs that we've done. We've done Steven Universe, we've done Ben 10, we've done all this great stuff, but this is my favorite of the last couple months, I want to say, for these designs. And I've had a lot of people in the comments, and I want to address it. They say that's just Lycanroc. Maybe. Okay, that's fine. I get it, there's some connections there, and I think with actual Pokemon designs too, you could say the same thing. You could say, wait, why doesn't Luvdisc evolve into Alomomola? There's a whole deal. But with this one, I was really proud. I felt like it was a step forward from where I did the Roxy design, which was another wolf for a Five Nights at Freddy's video. I feel like this one was one where I kind of got to go in and redeem myself for that. I like the Roxy design. I just felt like there was so much that could have been done, and I allowed the prompt to overtake my creativity on it. A lot of that comes from me just getting kind of over infatuated with the comments or kind of taking them very critically. And doing those designs, I thought, I want to save myself on this. I want to bring this in a way that I can say I redeemed myself in one way or another. So I went in and I designed this Pokemon, and I knew exactly the vibe that I wanted to go for. I said, I want this humanoid, anthropomorphic type of Pokemon, the same type that we see with Pokemon like Lucario or Tsareena, or what have you. These different Pokemon that have very humanistic features to them. I wanted that to be very much the case here, because Luna is a Hellhound, which in the Hell of a Boss universe are much more humanoid. At least they were until the recent video. But I went in and I wanted to design something that didn't feel 100% animal and felt like a Pokemon. I feel like it worked, and I know I'm always going to have those comments that say, well, it looks like Lycanroc, well, it doesn't feel like this, or you already did a design like that before. For me, this was a redemption. It was a purposeful return to form. So this was Lunatrix, a play on Luna and Lunatic, as well as that Trix type of female ending to names and words. I believe it comes from Latin. And so I did this design, and I dig it so much. I feel like there's such a good balance to shapes that I've really taken note of for myself and want to apply to various different aspects of other designs. It was a learning opportunity. I saw it as that, and I took it in stride. So over this past 6.5 months, I've drawn a lot of Pokemon. 3 videos a week for the past 6 months. And I love looking back at them. I hope you do too. I hope that this gives you the chance to look back and say, hey, I actually didn't see this video from Stern's catalog. Or I saw this one and I didn't realize it was part of a series. I'm really bad at organizing. But I hope that that's what you see, and I hope that I'm able to do more within the coming years. So, with all that being said, it sounds like you know where to find me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Before we go, I want to give a big shout out to all of our supporters who make these videos possible. You guys are amazing. Our Patreon, our Ko-fi, our YouTube members, all of you guys are phenomenal. And again, are what allow these types of videos to be made. So thank you so much. If you want to be a part of the community, you can also join us on Discord, which is down in the description below. You'll also be able to find the names of all the people that I kind of mentioned throughout this video down there as well. Give them a look, check out their stuff. They are a huge part of what allows my videos to be what they are as well. And yeah, bye.